Do you want to have more FPS in Call of Duty? Do you also want to have an advantage of visibility where you may be able to see people before they could see you? Well, today I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how to do that. I'm going to be going through all the graphic settings that I use, and there are some huge tips that is going to boost your FPS and your visibility. Hey guys, what is going on? It is your boy J King, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys the best graphic settings for Black Ops Cold War. This is mainly going to be for any PC players, but if you do play on console, you might find some tips and tricks in here as well as things like field of view, different things like that. But I'm going to be giving you guys some huge tips on how to boost your FPS, what settings you should be using exactly, and also how to boost your visibility and see people in those dark corners and different things like that. So hopefully you'll be walking away from this video with a leg up on the competition with better FPS and better visibility. So before we get into today's action, we do have a shout out, Mr. Thuggy Ducky 420. Shout him out. His link will be down in the description below. If you want to shout out yourself, all you have to do is go over to my stream, jking_official on Twitch, get 1,000 channel points before next week's video, and you will be shouted out just like Mr. Thuggy did. Your link will be down in the description below. Also, if this video has helped you at all, consider leaving a like and subscription. I post a live commentary every Monday and a tutorial video just like this every Friday, so ring that bell for more content in Black Ops Cold War. So without further ado, let's get into it. So hopping right into it, we're on the graphic settings. On the actual settings tab, I'd recommend running it at full screen. I know windowed full screen could be pretty enjoyable at times, especially if you have a second monitor and you're alt tabbing a lot, but full screen is going to give you the best performance in terms of input lag, which is going to help you just be a better player overall. I'd recommend putting it at the max refresh rate of your monitor, even if you're not hitting it. I'd recommend keeping VSync off. What this does is pretty much adds input lag into the game to keep pretty much the frames going smoothly. So don't turn this on unless you're having a massive amount of screen tearing. If you don't know what screen tearing is, you're gonna know once you have it. So just keep this off generally. As far as the NVIDIA reflex, this is actually a pretty important tip for anyone who has an NVIDIA graphics card. I'd recommend keeping it on normal. I know boosted is going to give you that lower input lag, even a little bit more than normal, but it's actually going to come at the expense of your FPS just by a little bit. So I think the best possible outcome is going to be normal. You're going to get that lowered input lag, but you're also going to not be taxing your GPU and lowering your FPS because of it. As far as display resolution, I keep it at your monitor's display and actual resolution, unless you're having some serious performance issues. Obviously, lowering the resolution is going to help you get better FPS. It's going to decrease the demand on your GPU, but don't do this unless you're actually having some serious performance issues. Try to just keep it at your monitor's actual resolution. Aspect ratio, I would keep it at 16:9. There's no real reason to play stretched on this game. You can use whatever colorblind filter you want. It's obviously pretty personal preference. Field of view is personal preference as well. I do not recommend going below 90. And I honestly don't recommend going at 120. I feel like 120 is going to decrease how far you are seeing enemies, invisibility and things like that, especially if you're playing like Fireteam Dirty Bomb or even Warzone. So try to find that sort of perfect balance. A lot of people play 95, maybe 100. I go up to 113. I feel like that's my perfect sweet spot. I'm still able to see enemies from afar, but also have that visibility around me. No matter what field of view you have, I do recommend affected field of view for ADS. That's just the most comfortable thing there is. If you have independent, it could be pretty jarring if you have a high field of view and then going into an extremely low field of view in your ADS. So try to keep it on affected. Brightness is again personal preference. Just find something that looks best for you. You can use the in-game sort of color thing right here if you want. Frame rate limit, I would not recommend capping it unless you want to keep your temperatures down in your PC. If you don't have anything other than stock fans, or maybe if you don't have any water cooling, sometimes your PC could get a little hot. You don't want to have it running at an extremely high temperature. So capping it is a way to lower that temperature. It's also a way to free up some resources for things like streaming in the background. If you do cap it, I recommend capping it at your max monitor's refresh rate. Mine is 165, so that's what I capped it at. Obviously going above that and say running the game at 200 FPS is going to give me better input lag, even if I'm on a 165 hertz monitor. But the results of that is going to be pretty small. You're not going to see too much of a difference. And, if you do want to cap it at your monitor's refresh rate. Now, getting into the actual graphics settings, pretty much I would keep these two on medium. This is going to give you the best balance between performance and visual quality. Obviously, if you have things on like super low, It's going to be pretty hard to see different things, and you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage going into gunfights. Medium I've found is the best performance and visual quality. I would not recommend HD textures unless you're going to be playing like the campaign or something, and you just want it to look really nice. But on multiplayer, keep this off. Special effects quality, go down to medium. Screen space reflections, turn that off. That's pretty taxing on pretty much everything. Object view distance, I've heard a lot of people say that this doesn't matter and you can even turn it on low, but I keep it on medium. I haven't not really noticed a performance decrease on this medium setting. And then water tessellation disabled as well. As far as the lighting, I have this on medium. I'm not entirely sure why. I feel like it just makes the game look better. I have tested it between low and medium, and there wasn't any like noticeable increase or decrease, so I keep it on medium if it does bring any sort of visual quality. Shadow quality on low. This is really taxing on your GPU, and there's really no reason to have in-game shadows. There's no benefits or like a competitive edge for the shadow quality itself. However, there could be for dynamic shadows, and that's why I have it on all. As you can see from the screen here, you might be able to see a player's shadow in some situations, so having that on may give you that advantage in those extremely rare gunfights. So having that on is a good thing. And then these two are going to be disabled just for performance. Ray tracing, turn this off. Please turn this off. This is so taxing on your GPU. Again, unless you're playing the campaign or something like that, there's no reason to have this on. Now, this is actually probably the most important thing when it comes to the graphic settings. If you have an NVIDIA GPU that is eligible, which I'm not entirely sure, I believe is the 2000 series and up, could be wrong, but obviously if you have a GPU, you could check. So basically what this is going to do, it's going to increase your FPS by like 20 to 30 frames while not dropping the visual quality that much. I do recommend performance for this. If you do like ultra performance, it's going to become pretty blurry, and there's actually not a performance increase between ultra performance and performance. So I believe performance is going to give you that best FPS possible while still keeping that clarity and visual quality. I have ambient occlusion on low. You can turn this off if you want. I feel like it just makes the game look a little bit nicer. Motion blur, please, please, please turn this off. This is such a terrible setting. It actually lowers your FPS, and it just makes the game look worse, as you could tell from the picture. Again, unless you're playing the campaign, do not turn this on. I turned both of these off. There's, again, no real reason to have them on. Down here in advanced, I'd recommend putting it on 80%. I know this is default. If you go low, this is going to actually hurt your FPS and performance, but it's actually going to free up more of your resources for other things. So if you are having troubles dropping frames on stream, maybe try turning this down to low. You could also just play around with it. Maybe you could try high and see what that does to your system, what it does to your performance. So I do recommend default. That's what's worked with me. Now, before I move on to the NVIDIA filter settings, which I do believe is going to help your visibility out tremendously, make sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy today's video. Also hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a ton. If you guys didn't know, I'm also a variety streamer over at jking_official on Twitch. It would be amazing if you guys check that out. My link will be down in the description below. So yeah, let's get into the NVIDIA filter settings. So that's it for the graphics settings. I do want to throw in a little bit extra thing here, and this is actually going to be NVIDIA filters. So if you do have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can use this. I do believe it comes with GeForce Experience. I do have a problem with this because I cannot seem to use the game filters while I'm streaming because I use display capture. You can probably see it flickering a little bit right here, but if you use display capture, you're going to have a pretty hard time getting this to work. But if you don't, and you don't stream at all and you're just playing the game, definitely try to use these. Here's the things that I use. You can sort of play around with it. Some people might not like how much saturation there is on the screen, but I feel like it just makes the game look a little bit nicer, and this is actually going to increase and help your visibility even more. Basically what I do, I go into color, pretty much turn these two down. Temperature I keep at 0, and then vibrance I'm going to turn all the way up. Again, if you don't like the sort of color that I am using, you can play around with this. The biggest thing is going to be brightness and contrast. Pretty much I turn exposure to 10, contrast down to 26, or negative 26 that is. Highlights and shadows all the way up to 100 and negative 100%. And then gamma up to like 10 or 12%. This is actually going to increase your visibility. It's going to help you see in those dark corners, you know, maybe in the houses on Nuketown, different things like that. It's going to help your visibility and just help see people better where you normally wouldn't see them. I also have a detail setting just to sort of sharpen the image up a little bit. I do turn this down from the default pretty much for everything, because I do believe that the like sharpen all the way up here just does not look good. So I keep it down at around 31%. And then clarity, HDR, toning, and bloom sorted right there. Again, I don't really use this because I use game capture, and for some reason it just doesn't work. But if you are playing the game, or maybe you use display capture, which I don't recommend you doing, pretty much this is going to help you see those enemies in those places that you wouldn't normally see them. So anyway, guys, that is today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you see this, I do appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
I'm done with all the questions, so I ain't even asking. So I ain't ever stopping next to anyone I'm passing. You've run out of answers, you've been guessing enough. I mean